Okay, welcome back. It's the afternoon lecture time for week 2, day 1. I have this morning's lectures already up on the calendar and on YouTube. So we said we were going to go over a couple more DOM manipulation rules, and then we were going to break out into groups for a lab group time. So let me show you what I was going to cover this morning, but didn't have time. And then we'll go on to doing that. Okay, so we have the topic is DOM manipulation. We want to introduce right now input and change. Okay, I glossed over at the very end of the lecture. We want to go over on change when selecting from a select. So we are going to copy the function and this into an HTML file. So let me pull up my Visual Studio Code. And I want to open folder. So let's create the files, index.html, style.css, and script.js. We want to make sure everything's connected first. Actually, don't need to connect the CSS right now. I just want to connect the script. So if I say script, it'll give me this, and I just have to type in name of the JavaScript file. It just has to be at the same folder location. And that's how I can easily access it from here. Now let's make our file say something. Oops. Careful in typing there. Hello world. And let's make the JavaScript file say something. Let's make it say console.log hello world. So this is going to be a test to see that we're connected. Let's run it on a live server. Here we are. I'm going to bring it down to 100% view. And if I inspect my console, there's my hello world. Okay, so there's my hello world. And so I know my JavaScript's connected. Now let's copy and paste the code from the platform. So let's paste this here. This is a select drop-down menu. So I'm going to reformat my document and then copy over the JavaScript. And then we'll take a look at what it does. Okay. So here we are. And I think I can make this a little bigger. So here's our select, and we have 3 options: tacos, pasta, and sushi. When I say on changing one of these select options, I want this function to run and pass in this. This will refer to the whole select, this thing. It will pass in this, and we want to view the option that was selected, and we're going to put that in an alert. So here in function, we have the name of the function that we called, choose lunch, the element, which is going to be the placeholder for this, whatever this whole select that we would pass through. Okay, so this select that we would pass through goes into element here, and the alert should say the value that we would have selected, one of these. Okay, let's go and test this out. All right. I would like to eat, and if I select pasta, an alert will come up with the word pasta in my alert. You picked plus element dot value. That's how we get that specific element out of the selection, element dot value. So that's how I can select from something and make it alert to the screen. This may be something that you would have to do on your test. One of the test options out of many has one of these. Okay, so let me take a poll, and now's the time to ask a question about this one in particular, if you have any. By the way, I appreciate when you guys have your cameras on. It gives me a bit of a clue as to how well I'm being received here. It's not necessary, but thank you if you leave it on. Okay, so this is how we can select from a select dropdown and receive and do something with the result. In this case, we're going to make it to an alert. The thing we want to type in is on change. On change equals, and then make this function call receive this. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next one is on input, on input. So let's comment out our code. All right, I'm going to take this code. I'll leave it here so that when I push it, you guys can still access it. I'll comment it out. This as well. And now I'm going to add this block of code and this one here. Let's see what this does. Okay. So I have a div with a class called card, and it has a p tag and an h tag within this div. Within this div, we have a p tag and an h tag. And then we have an input. And in this input, this text input, we have this on input. On input, what this does is on the input of the text that we would put into this text input area, we call this function. This function receives this entire input. And what this function does is it receives this with that element placeholder. So it receives this, whatever the input was. We're going to console log it to see its value. And then we are going to take name tag, which is, let's take a look at this var name tag. It's a document query selector, and it's looking for this ID name tag. So let's find that ID name tag. And what we're doing when we call this function is we are going to make the inner text of the name tag equal the value of what we input into here. So every time a value is put into this input, we're going to call this function and then change this H3. So let's see this done in real time. Right now it says example, and that's because the placeholder value right here is example. So we're going to destroy this example, and it's going to delete what's in there in the H3. So let's type in something. Today is a great day to learn JavaScript. Okay, so anything I type into this input area is going to now appear on the screen as I input it. And that is because on the input, every time I put in a value, it's going to call this function. Every time I call this value, it's going to call this function. So that's how I can make any time I type in text appear somewhere else on the page. Now imagine what you could do with this. Do you know Google's search engine, how it works? If I type into Google and I type in something, what's a question we want to ask Google today? How can ducks fly? How can ducks? And as soon as I start typing, it tells me all these different search engine possibilities. How do you think that's done? It would be with our value on input. So Google is using here on input in order to do a search using an algorithm to give me these different options that I can use to shorten my search. Maybe someone already asked a question similar to this, and there's a bunch of different options Google's algorithm can search through. But the way that the data is passed is through on input. Okay, so that's a practical functionality you can see use for that. Okay, so let's see how we're understanding this one. This concept of on input.
So I noticed that you used both the this keyword and the query selector.
Right. Right. And that's because I am receiving the values in my function from this input. I'm receiving the values, and that's why I'm passing in this. This input contains the values. Where can we see it? This whole input takes in all the values. So when we pass in this, we are passing in this whole thing. And this whole thing contains the text I originally typed in. So when we're passing in this, we're passing in the whole input and all the text that I've put into it. The reason we're also using a query selector is because this function has to access something other than this, something other than the input. It has to access this H3, right? So I can't access this H3 using this because this is attached to this input right here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so this one, maybe we need to practice with it, but as you can see, all I needed to do was take it from the platform. All I did was copy and paste this div, this example, and also take this. There's no new concept that we've introduced other than on input, which works with an input type text. We can change this value from text to type. What do you want to do? Number? Sure. So now I can select a number, and whatever I select, it's going to present. It doesn't matter what type of input it is. I can now post that input, and we can see the value on the page. Okay. All right. Now that we've covered this, I think there's one more thing we should cover here. Let's see here. JS objects. Definitely want to cover objects. I believe we covered objects in programming basics, right? How to access an object, what an object is. If not, no, actually we haven't. So there is definitely an object morning algorithm lecture that we'll devote to, and we'll explore how to access from an object, what it is, and how we can use it. So this is in the document object model section. I haven't covered it in the lectures, but we will cover objects and how to use them properly. Okay, it's not needed for your test, so I won't emphasize it yet, but we'll cover it in the morning algorithms in case you're wondering what this is in the section of document object model. But at this point, we've pretty much touched on all this area. What I want us to do now is have some practice with it. So we're going to have some practice with it. And let me stop sharing my screen. What we're going to do is we are going to break out into groups and take our code from this morning's algorithm, our life's answers algorithm, and we are going to create a magic 8-ball. All right, so let me share my screen again. Maybe I shouldn't have stopped sharing to begin with, but let me share it again. I have an example of a magic 8-ball somewhere. I think I had it. Let me do a quick search. I think it's pretty self-descriptive, right? Out of those life answers that you would see in your console, I want you to now build HTML and CSS, make a ball, and make it so that when you click a button, you see the answers. The random answer that would appear in the center of the ball. Let me pull up an example, and this one give me about 30 seconds here to pull up. If I don't have it, then we'll just break out into groups. Magic. Oh, well. You know what? I don't have an example, but what I do have is this image in case you're unfamiliar with what a magic 8-ball looks like. So what I want to see, not a page where you can shop, but I want to see a magic 8-ball like this. Make a black circle with a blue triangle in there and a button somewhere that when you click it, it would, like, you know, do the process of this toy where you would shake the ball and it would give you a random answer. Okay, so let's see a random answer come out of there. If you want to make it different style, you know, I've seen those arcade machines where it's Zoloft the wizard, and you put in a coin and he gives you your fortune. Make it something like that if your group wants to spice it up. Okay, you have your choices, and if you finish before the time that we have to present, because we're going to present at the very end, then make some added features. Think of the different JavaScript options that we've learned today, and think of a way that you can add a feature that would make it different than just the bare minimum that I'm asking you. Build a circle with a triangle in it, or some other way of a fortune teller given a fortune, so that when you click the button, it will give you your new fortune from those life's answers. Okay, does anyone have any questions about what we're doing? Okay, great. All right, so let's break out into groups now. and get started.
Gosh, is it just 8 different possible answers? Is that the whole point of it? Or is it a specific set number that you want us to be able to generate past that?
No, just use those life's answers. If you want to, change
from earlier. Okay.
Yeah. Just use the algorithm. That's why I asked you guys to share it amongst yourselves this morning, because we're going to be using it today still. And if you want to, change the answers, make it something more interesting, you're free to do that with the time you have left. Okay, there's 3 people per room. You guys know the drill: presenter, navigator, driver. And the rooms are open. We'll drop in to see if you guys need help. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Did all of our groups have a chance to complete? Anyone miss anything? Almost there. It's okay if we almost got it, as long as we got the main point. So let's have some groups present. And if we didn't meet the mark, we'll find out how we could have. And of course, you guys can work on this on your own time, but we're running out of lecture time. So let's go through everyone on the list one by one. Who'd like to present first?
We can go first. Get it out the way.
Thank you, Austin.
Kurt, you want to share your screen? Okay, so we did it the easy way. Tried to use some old code. So from this morning's assignment, we got the all the options right here. Also using the same JavaScript, but we only selected 8 items, as would in a normal Magic 8 Ball. Let's go to the HTML real quick. So writing the HTML out, link to style sheet, H1, behold the Oracle. And then the button prompt, got the one click over to our function Oracle. And we use the same function from this morning. We go to the function real quick, Kurt. Right here, using the math.floor, math random, and select one of these 8 items at random.
Nice.
Go ahead and come back to the HTML. Okay, and then that's where we have our div class circle, H2 magic, ask again later. And then we plug the answer in. Kurt, you want to go back to the JavaScript? We plug the answer to that in right here, the var 8 ball, and we targeted the magic element. So go ahead and give it a run, Kurt.
Nice. So we have the blue text and the black ball with the button on top. Nice. Okay. Nicely done, guys. I've seen you guys struggle with this, but can you guys tell me some learning points, something that you had some, maybe something you had a light bulb moment about that you had when you were coding? You couldn't figure out, but you figured out through struggle.
I know one thing was in the JavaScript about using the array.length -1, but not using that if we're using math.floor.
Okay. All right. So that's related to JavaScript. Anything related to getting the DOM to change?
Just how things have to be ordered.
Okay.
Like making ID where we have magic as the ID.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to make sure that's the thing that changes, not say the button.
Right. Passing in this versus getting a document query selector to grab the ID instead of changing the button text, right? Cool. Okay, well, thank you guys. Appreciate you presenting. Let's go through a couple more groups while we have some time. We have about 10 minutes left. Let's go through another group. Who else would like to volunteer?
We can go.
Okay, thank you.
Nicholas, can you share your screen?
Oh, we're cutting into Vincent code review time. Vincent, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we didn't get to the JavaScript portion. We ran out of time, like styling.
Okay.
So Nicholas actually had the idea to nest the triangle within the button, which I blew my mind. I didn't think that you could do that. And then we set our dimensions for the ball, and then our other, I'm forgetting his name, but the I think it was Yancey, figured out how to do the triangle down.
Awesome.
And then we were just getting to link. We had set the H2 and we were going to link in the Java, but we just didn't get to that.
Okay.
But yeah, the button actually does work, and we got it centered and everything. So
nice. Let me use your guys's group work as an example. I'm not trying to beat down your guys's work, because your CSS and HTML look beautiful. It looks great. What I want to emphasize is that if and you're not being graded on this, so don't worry, but if this were an exam, the points would be weighted toward JavaScript more than HTML and CSS.
Yeah, we should have just got the broad strokes down first.
Right. So if you're working with an assignment, at least think about it this way. When you're working on the exam, and if you have some time left, use that time to get the JavaScript working rather than perfecting the CSS, because you can get a perfect HTML and CSS score, but if you don't do at least one of the JavaScript tasks, like making something like this appear, you still wouldn't pass the test. So you have to get at least one JavaScript. Not docking you guys. I didn't tell you guys that rule, so don't worry about it, but I'm just using it as an example for the exam. Like, try to get the JavaScript if you have to choose between CSS and JavaScript, okay? But thank you guys. Great job. I really like that circle and triangle. So proud that you guys discovered how to make that work. It's all about learning. So let's keep going. Next group. This will be our last group, by the way, because we have to close out. I saw one group that had an interesting ball. You guys want to share?
Yeah, I guess our group can go.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Ernest.
I think Ryan can share the screen.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
This is the
The Eye of Sauron.
The Eye of Sauron. So let's see how it works. How do you get it started?
So basically, you just click on the eye.
Okay.
And, Ryan, if you can do that. Yeah, like we weren't able, like for some reason, like our text kept on like moving around, but yeah, we didn't have enough time to fix that. But we still thought it looked kind of cool though. So
yeah, in coding we say it's not a bug, it's a feature. So no, here's the opposite end. We got the JavaScript to work, but the CSS and styling isn't perfect. So good job, guys. And how do we get this to work? Let's see how we did it. Any different method than we saw in the other group? Pretty much the same thing, right? On click, you put the click on the eye. And let's see the JavaScript. Someone said Aku from Samurai Jack. All right, so we have a function, and we changed the inner text of this being passed in. So in this case, we did use this, and element received this and changed the inner text. And that's what we're seeing at the bottom of that eye, of the evil eye. Okay. All right. So how do we feel about manipulating our DOM? Every day we're becoming more and more skilled developers, right? Do you guys sense it? Now you're able to make a web page and change something on the web page. The next step is saving that information somewhere to a database, and that's what you guys will be learning next stack. But let's perfect our craft here. Let's get our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript working. Now you can build Amazon. Not quite yet, but we're getting there. One day maybe. So
was the query selector optional? Like you could have did inner text or query selector?
yes, because the different groups had different methods. One attached a button to the top of the ball and used that. Another group made the eye in the center of the ball where the text appeared, but you saw that the text was moving. So they had a little bit of a problem with their HTML, CSS, but they just had a different method. They wanted to be the on-click on the ball itself, and that passed in this. And so in that case, the button itself, that text was being changed. So in that case, this would have worked. There's more than one way to do it. Okay. And you can always go back onto this lecture, pause it where the code is being showed, take a look at that code, and you'll be able to see the difference between the different versions of this project. Okay. Now we have to split up into code reviews. We're running out of time here, so let me share my screen and we will continue our day's assignments. Okay, so today we're going to finish up this day with code reviews. The goal is to do button clicker today, so that's the core assignment. Video preview is a good practice assignment. And then tomorrow is a practice day for the exam. So Dojo Weather, Making Connections, and Dojo Pizzeria. This practice assignment has to do with JavaScript. We're going to be going a little bit into a new topic in morning algorithm sessions about objects. So we'll be diving into that. But the yellow belt exam will be on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript relating to DOM manipulation, not so much functions and tracking down with the T diagram, the changes. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end the lecture. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just I'm trying to edit the, trying to sign up for the code review.
Oh, you can't do that?
No.
Oh, I saw your email then, Austin. I'll go ahead and give you access to edit.
Okay.
Okay.
You got me too.
Send me your email that you need access to edit the document through. If it's not the one you signed up with Coding Dojo for, send it to me in a private message on Discord or get a hold of me after this next meeting. But I have to take off to a meeting now, and we'll regroup and get everyone in a code review. So we'll make sure that's done.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and break out into groups, and thank you guys. I'll stop the recording.